people that don't know you, who is Charlie Johnson? How do you help people?
I originally built one of the biggest online fitness businesses in the UK. I actually had a shocking statistic that I looked on Stripe the other day. We've had over 18,000 customers.
Nice.
And we now predominantly help trainers scale their online businesses. We've helped over 500 trainers scale, and we've helped 18 hit the first 100K months. Fitness-wise, if you get someone come into your program and they drop £4 the first week, boom, they've got confidence. They're all in and do whatever you say. Business-wise, if we get someone come in like Alex Jarvis who makes 10 grand in 24 hours, like boom, he's all in. He's super
I should
happy.
play that
right?
voice now, to be fair.
Yeah, we'll play that.
What's your views on marriage?
I think marriage is something that's very important. I think a lot of people overlook the importance of stable relationships. And I say this from someone who's divorced but now in another relationship, so I know it's maybe slightly controversial, but I think that's also understanding that it is okay if you're in a relationship and it's not maybe the right relationship you should be going to. Because some people stay together just for the sake of staying together, whereas actually if you are that person and you feel like that and you're not making that choice, then you are a coward because you're messing up someone else's life essentially with that.
So what is it you specifically use now yourself? Like, because you've achieved a lot now, what still drives you now to do even more? For you, what is it? What do you think right now, what's the biggest problem you're obsessed with solving for the people you work with?
How to create consistent lead flow, client acquisition, so you don't have that constant anxiety and overwhelm. And I would say the caveat with that is also building yourself a business that actually gives you what you want. So if you want time freedom, location freedom, financial freedom, you actually set up the business from day one knowing that if you 10x this thing, it's actually going to give you what you want. Whereas most people do is they end up growing a monster that actually runs their lives and they actually dislike.
Golden handcuffs, right? It's definitely a case of that. Do you think a lot of it kind of comes back to what you saw yourself want, and then that's essentially what you see other people want now as byproducts? Or
100%. And I think for me, once you've seen behind the curtain of how, I'm not going to use the word easy, how simple it is to do this. It's hard, like you have to do a lot of work. I'm not going to beat around the bush with that. It's incredibly hard in terms of the work you have to put in, but it's actually very simple. And the higher my level of probably business intelligence, almost similar to emotional intelligence, I would say the more simple I start to see how basic this is. Quick interjection into the podcast. If you're an online coach who's looking to scale the business, get their first 5K month, 10K month, or even get to 50 to 100K a month, we have helped hundreds of trainers do this at this point, and I've personally generated over $14 million online in the fitness industry. We have a proven methodology that works, provided you're willing to do the work. Now, if you want to book in a free business audit, we'll break down exactly where you are now, where you want to go, and what's currently holding you back. Hit the link below this video and below the podcast to find out exactly how we can help you. Pick a time and we will walk you through the process of where your business is at and what exponential growth looks like. Now, back to the podcast.
for you, because we've known each other for, I believe, up to 2 years now.
Yeah.
I think it was actually, because I started working with you, I actually got to meet you, I think it's 2 years ago in March. Flew down to Dubai, started working with you, obviously mentoring wise, and almost like, it's kind of funny to see 2 years ago. For you, what's been like a belief you've held when you were around 20s and 30s that you think will sabotage you today?
That money is a finite resource,
Interesting.
but you just have a lack of resourcefulness to go and get it, and that the market for everything is way bigger than you think. And I give some context to this. I said to Alex Ramosi, like, I think about maybe going broader and going to other markets other than fitness. He's like, you are fucking retarded. There's like 18 million personal trainers in the United States. It's like, you do not have 18 million clients, so like, just keep going. And I very much took that as a, like, yeah, that's really obvious when you think about it. I think the problem is, as entrepreneurs, anyone who runs a business, you have entrepreneurial ADHD where you get bored, you get distracted, and you just want to go and do stupid shit all the time.
What did you say personally, in terms of like a belief you held?
Biggest personal belief was that I was probably not good enough. And I think that insecurity is what drove me to then prove the point to myself and then maybe other people around me. And that's where I'd say to anyone listening to this, that if you don't have the body you want in life, you don't have the business you want, you don't have the things you want in life, the thing that will motivate you more than anything is pain and discomfort.
100%.
Like if you are if you're in comfort in your life where you are right now, you're probably not going to push that much to get out of it. If you fucking hate the position you're in terms of like, you don't like the money you make, you don't like the country you live in, you don't like the girlfriend you've got, the body you have to be enough pain to make the change. Otherwise you'll stay the same.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's funny because I've been coaching for almost 7 years now, and I found the first 2 years was more like, I got in there as the youngest PT. I pretty much had a 9 to 5 at the same time. And what happened is actually back then, because I had some security in there was incomings, there was outgoings, and it's fairly stable. I found that was like, I got quite cushy in a sense. And then it was actually year 2 where I kind of started to take it a bit more seriously. Year 3 where COVID happened and everyone just goes overnight. You're like, shit, I've got nothing now. not got my 9 to 5, not got my coaching business. And that was like a lot of drive to actually prove myself I can do it, because I was the youngest one there. I think I started when I was 20 years old, actually, just to turn 21. And everyone else at 30s and 40s and 50s, I was like, right, I've kind of got time to catch up. And what's funny is when you think you've got time to catch up, you take your time. And I find that's actually so much harder now, because not harder now, but it's almost like if I had told myself advice going earlier, I'd be like, you've got time to catch up, but you kind of don't have the time at the same time. And it's almost funny because you think you're younger, you think, oh, if I get to 30 and these people aren't far beyond me because I'm comparing to people that are playing this game, I've got this lag. And overall, and now it's like obviously in a bigger fish or a bigger ponds, and it's quite interesting because the comparison game is much larger as well. It's
and what you said there is very interesting. So a lot of people think that they have time, but
they don't.
For example, if I am 10 steps ahead of you and you do the same amount of work as me, you will never catch me because I'm 10 steps ahead of you and I have massive forms of leverage in teams, resources, money, reputation, or whatever it is. And I think that's where at the start you have to work fucking harder than anyone else. And at the beginning, that's your superpower of like, okay, you need to put on your fucking cape and just go for it every day. And I'd say the more your business grows, you need to be more intentional what you put the cape on for. If I was to say one of my flaws I've probably run into over and over again is I have a very wide array of skill sets, so I can do everything, which then means I try to put the cape on and do everything, which in reality is you need to focus on what's the highest leverage thing you can do that no one else can do, and then double down on that. And then when you have a team, it's to try and guide them on how to put the cape on to do the thing as well.
Do you ever find yourself commonly repeating habits that your previous self did? Thinking patterns, behaviors, going back to like familiar places? You ever find yourself getting into that?
I notice patterns and trends, and I think this is why 95% of things you do are on autopilot every single day. Like your subconscious and conscious mind, you think you have control of your life, you don't. It's like actually programmed into you in terms of the way you think, what triggers you, and what makes you react to certain scenarios and how you react to them, 1,000%. Which is why the most important thing you need to have is self-awareness of what triggers you, what is the outcome of the trigger, does it make you do the work or not do the work? And I'll give some context that if anyone listening to this, if you're a fitness trainer or you're in a business, there's two things happen. Something really shit happens in your business or in your personal life, and like you either want to hide under the bed and you give up and you don't do anything for 4 weeks, or you go the other route, which was my personal thing, would be like, fuck the world, I want to prove a point, and then like I work even harder. The reality is there's normally one of the two, and the problem is if you go the hide under the bed and under the duvet route, is you just kicking the can down the road, 100%. And the problem that gets even bigger to deal with it when you do want to deal with it.
It's like it's funny. I don't know why that reminded me of this, but it was last year was the first time I celebrated a birthday, and it's like every single year what I used to do is hide away because I didn't want to go back home for the holidays. And it was I see family, see friends, and I kind of almost have these patterns where I should don't actually necessarily like in a sense. So I think it was 2 years ago, it was Exercise Library, just for some reason booked a video shoot in a completely different city, and I'm going to be away for my birthday. The year before that, we were away in China, Australian as well, the year before. And it's kind of funny because last year was the first birthday because I didn't want to go back home or see people I actually didn't necessarily want to be around. And now like last year was actually the first time we celebrated. It's actually quite funny to see that evolution overall, because it's like I really kind of didn't really like myself going back to previous things I used to do or being around previous people, because it almost made me think different, like think the previous ways, have conversations like previous patterns as well. And it's like, it's funny when you put yourself in these environments, sometimes you just kind of like just flee away and be like, actually, that's not a place I need to be in. And I used to think like if yourself, you moved to Dubai, it's almost like you can't actually necessarily like repeat previous patterns because you're no longer there, if that makes sense.
Well, my automatic programming is completely thrown out the window because everything's changed 100%. And the people I speak to have changed. Yeah. And that's why when you have changed a lot and you've developed a lot, and then you speak to someone from maybe your past 5 years ago, you're suddenly like, whoa, I didn't realize this person was like that, because you've evolved so much mentally. Yeah. And that's where I think the big thing is like, this is a game of skill development. But I also think from a business perspective, people took way too much emphasis on mindset. Now, the reason I say that is you can sit here and sing around like kumbaya about manifesting a business that makes you 50K a month or whatever it is. But unless you actually change your behaviors to go and get the business that makes you 50K a month, nothing happens, which is where like raw output and actually action is the thing that changes stuff. And like you can't even define mindset. Like what's the definition of mindset?
It's paradigm, right? It's a perception. It's funny because like people always go for mindset first and body later. Fitness as well. It's like I need to get myself mentally ready to get in shape, but it's more like you get yourself in shape, you're more mentally ready at the same time. It's actually becomes before the belief. For you, good question to actually look into. Let's say you're in a room and someone's going to, actually, let's say you weren't here and we were speaking about you. How do you want to be talked about? How do you want to be described?
is in character traits.
Yeah. Let's say someone's like kind of speaking about you.
Relentless, hardworking, intelligent, kind, giving.
Have you heard that thing where it's give and forget, receive and remember?
No.
That sticks with me all the time. That's always the biggest thing for me. It's like I want to be a giver, but forget, receive, but I remember. I'm super grateful for it.
So what that reminds me of, my mission is to give as much impact to help people make as much income as possible and to give them as much value as I physically can at scale. And that's where I get messages from people like, oh, I learned this from one of your videos. This is sick. This has helped me so much. I'm like, this is dope. And that's positive reinforcement that makes me want to do it even more. Because for me, one of the big things I really do enjoy doing is helping people. And one of the things I realized that subconsciously I like teaching, whether it's our own team or it's clients or whatever, is how can you pass on the skill sets and the knowledge you have that then can help someone else overcome some of the hurdles you've had.
Would you say you also want to pass on the lens which you view the world to the people around you as well at the same time?
Yes, because I'd say with experience, my frame of the way I look at things has changed dramatically, and also that then impacts my decision making to make better decisions. Yeah. So if I compare that to maybe 5 to 7 years ago, I now look at a lot longer time horizon when it makes decisions. Whereas before I'd be like, oh, what can I do today to make clients? What can I do today to this? Whereas now I'm like, okay, what can we do to keep clients for the next 6 months? What can we do to have a consistent amount of clients coming in over and over again? How can I have a repeatable system that does this rather than like one silver bullet you can fire once that gets you clients and that's it? And I think that's where a lot of people don't design their businesses and their life in that manner, that the thing they want to do, they can keep doing for a long period of time.
Yeah, 100%. It's funny because it's like, it's also if you want to build it, you might as well build it to last in a sense. And it's, sometimes I kind of find myself doing things and I'm like, if I had 10 more days to do it, can I do it better? Cool, let's do it better. It's like, if I've had 10 more weeks to do it, can I do it better? And it's like, cool, if that's the case, we can do it even better to that level. It's like sometimes like you get a video out and like that's kind of touching on perfectionism. There's obviously a sliding scale, but if you can spend more time but do it better and do it for a horizon which is actually going to be more generating impact and obviously a little bit more in terms of like getting more of your message out there, I find like it's much better to do as well.
So perfectionism is one of the greatest forms of procrastination, but I think it depends on the scenario of the thing you're doing. So for example, if you were going to make one Instagram reel and you were just going to post it once, like, yes, make it good, but I wouldn't spend a week making one reel. If you were going to make one reel you're going to run as an ad and you're going to spend £100 a day behind it, which is then going to have a huge amount of leverage, then yes, I would spend a lot of time on that thing.
For you, in terms of marketing, how do you buy into people nowadays? Because I know obviously everything's changing right now. What makes you a decision that this person's someone that you can trust?
Have they done the thing themselves? Have they helped other people do the thing is the first thing I look at. If I'm looking for someone to learn from. So for me, the biggest pattern recognition I've realized in my life is the people who've helped me the most are like a step or two ahead of me. Or sometimes actually, even to be fair, and this is, I had some advice from a non-figure entrepreneur who would know on Monday or Tuesday, and he's so far ahead of me that the advice is like, it's too much in terms of like, yeah, I can appreciate I can do all these things, but like that's a lot, and I have a lot of shit to do right now. Yeah. So I think sometimes you also have to understand that you have to take context of what someone's said ahead of you, but also interpret it in your own way. Whereas maybe before I'd be like, fuck, I need to do all these things, and then the main thing would then start to suffer because I'm trying to take on too many.
Do you ever find it hard to take advice from people out of shape?
I wouldn't, from a fitness perspective.
I should say broadly, kind of like
I would never take fitness advice from someone who's not in shape. I would never take financial advice from someone who hasn't got more money than me, because if I'm better than you at the thing, why am I listening? And I mean that contextually, that someone might have better skills in some other areas. Someone might be better at making YouTube videos, or might be better at boxing, jiu-jitsu, whatever, like some specialist thing. But if you were talking about this one area and then I'm ahead of you, then why am I going to listen to you? Because I'm already beating you at this thing.
Yeah. What about in business, in terms, do you feel like being in shape helps you in my business?
100%.
Let's say outside of fitness as well at the same time.
So it's something I notice a lot, which is very interesting. If you're in shape, and particularly a guy, and if you're slightly bigger, you naturally have a presence and aura about you. 100%. So I've been at a lot of events in the US recently, and like people are just drawn to me because you're a big guy. It's like a tribal thing that you like almost pulled in. But you being in shape is a sign that you are a very disciplined, consistent individual who has delayed gratification. And if you look at the 3 most important skills you need as an entrepreneur, delayed gratification, discipline, consistency, like the patience to keep doing the thing when you don't see any results. And that's why, from my opinion, if anyone is watching this and you're in great shape, then you should be able to make a great business. 100%. If you have a great business, you should also be able to get in great shape. because the same character traits lead to the same place.
It's transferable, right? Yeah, it's kind of like almost like you find it's almost like you've done it here before, you can do it again in another area in a sense. And
yeah, and that's why I actually think it's once you've learned one skill set. So let's paraphrase. If I've learned the skill set in terms of running Facebook ads. I realize, okay, I start running Facebook ads. Someone's teaching me. I have absolutely no idea how to do this. Cool. I suck really bad at the beginning. I then start to spend some money on Facebook ads. I start to learn, I start to suck less, I then start to get positive reinforcements, it starts to work, I learn more, and then I understand Facebook ads. Yeah. Then I actually learned the skill of learning, so then I'm like, cool, I want to learn how to do email marketing active campaign. I have no clue how to do this. How did I learn Facebook ads? Oh, I found someone who knew how to do it. I learned how to do it from them. I started. I figured it out. I then just tested. It fucked up. It then worked. I then tested, and then it worked, and then I started to work.
Yeah. It's funny because do you know what's like? Along the lines of that is more like it's quite interesting because you almost, I feel like the biggest thing that, and you might actually kind of like have an opinion on this, but I think some people think they need to be in shape to start a business at the same time. So I think that kind of being devil's advocate is that some people, are we getting fit pro all the time where it's like, I would put this out, but I just don't feel in good shape. For those people that are kind of like, we know they're ready. We know in comparatively to other people that actually far ready than they actually could be. What should be your best advice for them?
Again, you're procrastinating because you're chasing perfectionism that will never come. I constantly feel like I'm not in shape, but then I'm it's like 225 pound lab. So it's like because the way you view yourself and the way your frame of the world is warped, and also when you're from a fitness background, it's like all I hang around with fitness people. So like your perception is really framed.
To different league.
Whereas if I go to I went to like a normal business event at the weekend, like everyone's like, met Sabri Subi, he's like, you're fucking jack, right? And he was like, what do you do? And it's like, oh, I help train and scale the business. Like, well, obviously, like, but that's also good because what that allows me from a branding perspective, and there's a saying like is Ronsel for painting fences. It does what it says on the tin. Like, you could probably guess I had something to do with fitness because of the way I look. And that's where you want your brand to really, and who you are, to identify with the thing you do. And you have one with personal branding when your name is associated with X outcome. So it should be like Charlie Johnson, successful fitness coach. Irtaza helps men get in great shape. Blah, 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 blah. Like that's what you want, is your name to be synonymous with a direct outcome. And that's when you have a strong personal brand.
I love that. Yeah, it's kind of almost like it needs to be too obvious what you do in a sense. And it's a lot easier to kind of market that way. For you, what's something that you've, from a personal perspective, not business, something you are still working on right now that you find the biggest challenge right now for you?
Energy management and not getting distracted and what to say no to. So
interesting.
This is as you have more quote unquote success, attention, or whatever the frame you want to put on it is how do you allocate your most precious resource, or two, is your time and your energy. Because the problem you're going to run into is that you have a finite resource of this, and as much as I don't like to admit it, I'm a human being, I have to sleep, I have to eat, and I will just burn myself out. But what you actually really need is clear space to be able to think and make decisions. So for me, that's the biggest thing, is understanding what's the biggest bottleneck I have in business in my life right now. These things I'm doing this week in my calendar, are they aligned with solving that? If they are not, I should probably not be doing that. So it's like if you're in a diet phase to lose weight, should you be going to the Cheesecake Factory and eating cheesecake and eating junk food? Probably not aligned with the outcome you want. So that's really what I'm trying to focus on, is saying no to some things so I can focus on the bigger thing that's going to have more impact.
On like a broader level, how would you advise someone that knows what they need to say no to and what they need to say yes to? I guess it depends on the
what problem does it solve for you? So like if you're, okay, so I'm speaking on 3 podcasts today. One of our problems in our business is we want more traffic.
Yes.
So if I go on these podcasts, do I meet more people in person? Do I get more traffic online? Do I have more content? Yes. So is that a problem it's going to help me solve? Then yes. Do I have to be selective of what podcasts I go on? Yes, because there's no point me going on a podcast that doesn't get any views or downloads. So that's also where you have to look in terms of the depth of things. So that would be an example in terms of how we'd look at it.
I like it. Do you know what gets me a lot, and you might actually be able to see this as well? People spend too much time doing admin work. And it's like, you don't need to do admin. You need to get yourself in the trenches as well.
People worry about their paperwork when they don't even have a business.
Yeah,
so it's like
just steps before the steps.
The main priority of a business is actually to make money, so then you have a business. If you do not sell to someone and they do not pay you, you do not have a business. So if you literally just focus on initially marketing, like there's only 3 things you have to do in a business: acquire a customer, like market, sell, get client results, retain them, and get referrals. That like literally is it. The other stuff you can deal with down the road as it starts to build up more. And I think people procrastinate too much about building this Google Sheets empire and the perfect
1000%.
Notion board and all this bullshit. And like,
1000%.
dude, like we had a fitness business with 1,400 active clients, and it was like, we had so many clients on the spreadsheet would crash. It's terrible. It still is terrible, but it functions and it does the job.
Yeah. It's kind of interesting because it's like we kind of like almost made a lot of changes to our program. It's more like actually we're giving less, but it's actually more sharper now in a sense. It's like these are things they actually need as opposed to things you think they need, but it's more like keeps them busy, but not actually getting the result they're directly after. And that's with the fitness, the business, and every single aspect. It's like there's only a few number of key drivers that actually gets results, and the rest is more like it ends up leading to the wrong questions being asked. If that makes sense.
And what it does is it wastes people's energy and then time, and it delays their ability to then get a result, which then reduces their confidence. So, for example, fitness and business. Fitness-wise, if you get someone to come into your program and they drop 4 pounds the first week, boom, they've got confidence. They're all in, they can do whatever you say. Business-wise, if we get someone come in like Alex Jarvis who makes 10 grand in 24 hours, like, boom, he's all in. He's super happy.
I should play that voice note, to be fair.
Yeah, we'll play that. Like, he's all in, right? And that's where your job with your business is to get the client some type of quick result as fast as possible, what's called time to value, because that's going to give you more reciprocity than anything else. Yeah, and then also, if anything does go awry a couple of weeks down the line, they'll cut you some slack.
Diving away from business, and this is something I probably can speak on for days, it's what's your views on marriage?
I think marriage is something that's very important. I think a lot of people overlook the importance of stable relationships. And I say this from someone who's divorced but now in another relationship, so I know that's maybe slightly controversial, but I think that's also understanding that it is okay if you're in a relationship and it's not maybe the right relationship you should be going to, because some people stay together just for the sake of staying together, whereas actually if you are that person and you feel like that and you're not making that choice, then you are a coward because you're messing up someone else's life essentially with that. And I think that's where if you look at the people who are generally the most successful, that always have a very strong personal family around them. I would also say, which is very interesting from a weird perspective, if you look at anyone who is also very successful, their relationships with their parents tend to be strained a lot of time, particularly their father. Look at someone like Elon Musk, like would be a prime example, like most successful entrepreneur in history. A lot, like all my friends I know who are successful, other than one, have very weird relationships with their parents.
That's interesting. I never thought of it that way, to be fair.
My opinion is a lot of that is a fuck you to the world and chip on the shoulder and want to prove a point, maybe.
I feel like what I've seen growing up, it's you're either the exact same as your parents or the total opposite. It's not in between.
Yeah, I would say that's fair.
So the more you see, you'll actually, that's pretty much valid as well. It's funny because with marriage as well, it's like, I think it's almost a year, 9 months for us. And what's funny is like, previously the thing that put me off marriage was the fact that I'd have to stop working at the same time, spend time with them, the fact that it had to be a little bit about like kind of like a lot of change within your life, but my life looks the exact same. If anything, like we work until 10 p.m. some days and we're like, we've got a sales call at this time or we've got this at this time. It's quite interesting because I speak to a lot of people that say, oh, I need to go visit my family, go spend time with my partner because of downtime and, you know, building that in there. But it's almost like we kind of find like, because we're in the spot now, we're actually thinking like we feed the business and the business feeds us. So if we need to work on a Saturday night till 10 p.m, if we need to not take weekends off, we need to do these things where it's in line with the business. Like even in Dubai, for example, like we're actually just being, as soon as we got here, set up with the gym, got meal prep, which is right into like a routine overall. We've done a few things to overall celebrate, but it's more like day to day will be work as opposed to leisure. And I think that's the biggest things you can do, kind of like to grow something together, because you feed the business directly feeds you off the back of it. And if anything, I think that's like, having that, I feel lucky when I've got it because we've built that at the same time. Like she's working right now, she'll work till 10 p.m. We're going to go out for a walk, she's going to come back, she's got a call at 10:30 in the evening. And that's not something that people, if the partner doesn't understand you, there'll be a lot of kickback. But I think communication and just be on the same page is probably the biggest thing, because I find for a lot of people that partner doesn't necessarily want them to work as much as the person wants to work, if that makes sense. Or even things like dieting. Like we went to Global Village. We've been there before.
No, I haven't. I tried to go in the day once. It was actually closed and it was open at night.
Dangerous for food, but somehow like I thought I'd be like, oh, I feel bad. I want to go for a meal, get accompanied, and obviously like a joy experience. But I'm unfortunately probably got a photo shoot in 5 weeks and just went for a meal before, 0 fat.
Yeah.
Got a meal prep after. It's like she was enjoying the meals, and it's more like actually like having someone that actually supports you with that, rather than feel like you need to screw your diet up to accommodate for the person or change your business work around to accommodate for your partner as well. it's quite interesting because we've had to mold that over time, and it's actually worked better for us. And I look at the relationships and I speak to people that think, oh, I have to go spend this time with my partner 5 p.m. onwards, can't work, can't do calls. And I'm like, right, either that or, you build the future life you want and not the current life you've got right now, if that makes sense.
So I actually want to give you a different and interesting analogy. I said this at our event, was that you have two businesses. You have the business you have today and you have the business you have tomorrow, but you also, in another aspect, you have the life you have today and you have the life you have tomorrow. And if you don't focus on starting to build the life you want tomorrow, then it will never come. And most people run the same loop every single day. They eat the same food, they do the same thing, blah, 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 and nothing changes, which is why in 5 years' time, we're in the exact same position, just 5 years older and worse off, essentially. 100%. Whereas the big thing you actually need to do is have ideally a partner with similar values as you, who then also respects that, okay, if you have to work loads, then that's fine. And I think that's where having clear understanding from the beginning, like even transparently on my relationship with my partner, who's also called Charlie, I said, like, this is the pecking order. Number 1 is business. Number 2 is myself. Number 3 will be you.
You told me that.
Like, it is what it is. Because if number 1 doesn't work, then we're all fucked. Number 1 doesn't work. Number 2 is going to be fucked. If I don't put myself first, then I can't help you. So you have to be selfish to be selfless. And most people think that's incredibly narcissistic and incredibly selfish, but it's incredibly true. In particular, not in a sexist way, as a man, your job for 95% of pretty much the whole of human history is to be provide and protect. 100%. So if you do not make yourself the greatest version of yourself, you cannot provide and protect.
Do you think nowadays people shake off the responsibility?
Yes, which is why if you look why the UK is so fucked up is because we have a socialist state where you want the government and other people to come and bail you out. And I think one of the frames of when a boy becomes a man is when you realise no one's coming to save you.
Interesting. That's impactful, that is. I love that. For you, what's the hardest thing you've ever done? I feel like
getting divorced from my previous partner is probably the most difficult conversation I've ever had in my life. That will haunt me to the day I die.
Have you spoken about that much?
No. You see that now.
It's 100% dude. So for you, what's a topic you've not spoken about on a podcast, or you've not asked about, but you're passionate about speaking about?
I think the reality of how difficult it is to be successful and go and do the things you want, people don't see. You know that the iceberg analogy, people see the tips. You have no fucking idea. Like, even my partner now, Charlie, would say, like, no one has any idea how much shit you're doing all the time. So it's like, that's the reality of also what it takes. And I think that's also where people come in and they think that, like I said earlier, like, it's not complex, but it's hard. And a lot of that comes down actually to managing yourself, which is why I said earlier, it's like energy management. Because I can run myself into the ground and just not sleep, but then my ability to make good decisions is fucked. And if I can't make good decisions, then I can't grow a business. And that's also something Sabri Subri said to me at the weekend, which really hit me, was like, if you have a business and you have a team, your job is not to run the business, it's to grow the business. And that for me was a big frame. It's like, fuck, I'm pulling myself back into running stuff again. Whereas I need to be pushing from the front, like the fucking spearhead of like driving stuff forwards. So I think for anyone, when you start to have a team and develop a more scale business, that's really the framework you need to think.
Here's a question for you. Who's been the most impactful person in your life?
In what respect?
Anything.
I would say, I'll go a couple of people. So firstly would be, I used to drive around in Surrey in my black Mercedes when I was a estate agent, wearing my suit, listening to Gary Vaynerchuk and Grant Cardone. Gary V would talk about content and getting traffic and document, don't create. And then Grant Cardone would talk about sales. That really crafted my early worldview in terms of how to make money online. I would then say probably after that and more recently would probably been Alex Moses. Obviously had a very big impact. And obviously we started to do some work with him, and he said a couple of things to me that really, actually Ed from his team, that really took me back. And like someone like almost like melts your entire brain in your thesis of what you're doing in like one sentence. You're like, fuck, I didn't need to see it from that perspective. And I'd say what that actually has allowed me now to do is increase my business acumen to then look at a business overall more on data rather than emotions or intuition or gut feeling. I'd say one of my superpowers is I'm very good in terms of intuition of where things are going, but it's very easily to get emotionally pulled into doing things because everyone else is doing it.
Completely agree. Do you look for anyone for inspiration in that aspect in terms of personally? Like as in someone like has a personal trait, whether it's how they are with family, the relationships in that realm?
This would be an extreme. This wouldn't be someone I actually look up to because I would definitely not want to be him. I actually know to two people. So One would be Elon Musk. I have absolutely no idea how he does. I think he's got like 10, 11 children. He has 6 companies worth over $1 billion. He's now like running part of the US government. I have no idea how you do that. So he, in my opinion, is the greatest entrepreneur of all time. Like, he also made loads of money with PayPal, made $180, $200 million. He then took all of it, everything, put it back into SpaceX and Tesla, everything. Like, that's like big dick swings of like, you just don't give a fuck and you're all in, and like, it's not about you. So that I have huge credit for. The second thing I look at as someone would be, which is controversial, is Donald Trump, because dude's 80 years old and someone tries to assassinate him and he stands up fucking like pumping and fucking cheering. Like, what makes someone want to do that?
You need some
that
like
age?
vengeance in
Like, do you know what I mean? Like, for me, I think that's insane. So those would be 2 very extreme examples. Probably on a lower threshold than that is probably, I look for specific character traits from people rather than I want to be like that guy, if that makes sense.
Completely love that. For you, like almost like, because I believe going back to how we first met was actually March 2 years ago. I've seen a lot of things change over time. It's been quite excellent to see in terms of like the step by steps, in terms of evolution, business personally, and obviously we've built a relationship together, but almost like what's something that success hasn't solved for you?
Success, I'm going to be careful how I frame this. So I think people deem, here's a great example. So the book Happy Sexy Millionaire from Stephen Bartlett, I was like, fuck, this is literally me. It's like, you get the 6-pack abs, you get the Ferrari, you get the fucking blonde girlfriend, whatever, and then nothing changes. So that's when you suddenly realize this isn't actually about all this materialistic shit and the external validation of things, which for me actually, it wasn't really. It was an internal validation of self-worth to myself. And I think me allowing myself to want to be who I wanted to be was probably a big step, and also then not giving shit what anyone else thought, because I think for a long period of time I was probably very conscious of other people's opinions, whereas now I'm at the point where I don't really care. And I think when you're in that position where I care from a marketing standpoint, but I don't give a fuck really outside of it. So I think that's probably been the most liberating thing for me.
Interesting. For you, like almost, because you were saying earlier about like, there's a whole thing of people would actually pay more to go escape from hell than go to heaven, in a sense. For you, what's driving you in terms of negative emotion? Because I've always found it to be like a little bit more negativity drives me more than positivity. Like, for example, it was 2 years ago, actually, my grandma passed away. My mum was obviously working as a full-time carer. She was covering all the bills. My business was doing well. I was in the growing stages. And for her now, as soon as my grandma passed away, she lost all her income overnight. And that at a point, it was more like a place for me actually to step in and be like, right, you don't have to go to work. I'll take care of you and we'll have that secure. And like, that was the thing for me, actually, not negativity, but it drive me, because there was a place where it's like, this has to be done now. Otherwise there's a consequence towards it. And I almost think like driving consequences in there, such as like, if you don't do this, this will happen, or like you will die in a sense, or like kind of like almost like there's no other option to not do it, for example. So like when I wake up in the morning now, it's more like I can snooze, I can be like, I'm not going to get my cardio and my steps in, but I know that'll impact my work, which will then influence our coaches and our clients as well as my family. So now it's more like I'm using that to drive me. So what is it you specifically use now yourself? Like, because you've achieved a lot now, what still drives you now to do even more?
I would say it's a fear of not maximizing my potential, which is why I give myself a very hard time if I'm not feeling productive all the time, which is actually, I said, you see how this was all looped. So I have a fear of not maximizing my potential and doing as much as I physically can and being successful and having as much impact as possible. Therefore, I want to be as productive as physically possible all the time, which is why we were late for this podcast, because I put them 2 fucking days together and it took way longer than I thought. And then thirdly, if you look about what I said earlier on, is the biggest thing I struggle with is allocating my time and energy and managing my energy, because I'm trying to do too many fucking things, which is why I'm trying to streamline that process back to realize it's not about productivity, it's about output. So if you realize if I did nothing else this week other than press this one button and make this one decision and then everything crushed, then I just need to do that. But I need to figure out what that button is rather than run around like a blind sheep and fucking press every button, which is what probably 99.9% of society do.
Do you ever look into, I'm pretty sure you do, but in terms of like dopamine resets? Like
yes, I actually, ironically, I'm going to make a lead magnet for this. I've already made one. It's actually a burnout fix lead magnet. So I can give you the thesis of it. So number one is you need to have at least an hour of your phone every day with like blank space. You just go for a 60-minute walk in either silence with an audiobook. This morning I listened to 48 Laws of Power, phenomenally good. Thirdly is you need to journal and write 3 questions, which are first one was, what would my business look like what's the goal of my business? What do I actually want it to do? Secondly is, what would I do today if I didn't care what anyone thought of me? And then I can't remember what the other one is. It's in the lead magnet. If you message me, I'll send it to you. Just message me and send, what's it called? Not dopamine. Burnout fix or something. I'll send it to you. And then the last one was trying to cut off being on your computer by like 6:30. Like it said 6 p.m. For me, I'm going to put 7 p.m. because I have to take a call at 6:30 every day. So I think actually having frameworks, okay, this is when I'm going to like actually work, rather than what happens is you end up doing busy work bullshit that doesn't actually really move the needle.
How has that benefited you, out of curiosity?
I only started 2 days ago, so I'll find out, but so I'll let you know in a few weeks. But basically it's a 3-phase system. So like a lot of it is also then phase 2 is like actually evaluating time of like has red time, green time, and I think yellow. So like what's the highest priority things you can doing? So for me, it would be anything to do with sales, marketing, and like strategy. Like red would be like shouldn't do with anything to do with admin, operations, or client fulfillment. I need to try and get myself out of. Like being really clear and strategic what the high lever things are you do in your business, rather than doing things that don't have any like knock-on consequences.
I love that. For you, almost like what's next for you?
To continue focus on improving and doing what I'm doing right now, rather than adding in more shit. Because over the last few years, my tactic has just been do more and more and more and throw more stuff in, whereas now it's the goal is doing better and better and better. So like, how can we make YouTube videos that fucking bang, that get loads of views, we get loads of traffic? How can I make the best Facebook ads possible? How can I build the best sales team possible? How can we help more coaches scale than ever? How can we have the best systems to make it as easy as possible for coaches not to fuck it up?
1,000%.
And the last thing I was actually thinking about, speaking to Mike this morning, is how can it also teach coaches, I hate this word of mindset, but to have the right maybe frame of mind to realize that everything will work if you actually do the work. And if you have a personal meltdown and you hide under the duvet, you will not see the results you want. And then you'll also be in a worse position. And then you'll be having a pity party about it. And then you're trying to dig yourself out of the trenches a few months later.
The last bit there, how do you think that's going to plan out? Because I think if I had to give my way or my process, mine always, I find if I isolate, I get further. But what's interesting, actually, you had Natasha Storm on your podcast a while back, right? In Vegas. We actually had podcasts and we were kind of speaking off the mic afterwards for like an hour, to be fair. And we were kind of like speaking almost along the lines of like personal, business, everything. And she actually said something that kind of stuck with me. It's like some people need to spend more time with other people to heal and become better. Some people need to do the opposite. Which one do you think is for you?
I just need to be locked in a shed with a laptop and the internet and just fucking let loose. Yeah,
I like it.
And be allowed to go to the gym once a day. So I'm naturally very introverted, and actually I was thinking about this morning. One thing I want to try and do is have like a week or even 2 weeks with nothing on my calendar. No one, no meetings, nothing, like nothing. And then just left to my own devices to build shit and do whatever I want, because I know I'll do some mega stuff. But the problem is, unless you have that white space to do that, then it will never happen. And I also know that even from the way your brain works, like the different brain waves in terms of for you doing a sales call to making content to like having a shitty meeting with someone about something, is completely different. So if you know you've got a sales call coming up and you're trying to film the best content possible, in your head you're thinking like part of your brain is like processing about the sales call you got later on, like how am I going to frame this, how am I going to speak to this guy, da, da, da. So I think trying to really isolate certain things on certain days makes it a lot easier for you.
1,000%. What's interesting is you've worked in real estate 7 years ago? 8 years ago?
25th of February 2019, so 6 years ago.
Insane. And what's interesting, I remember my routine, I used to work a 9 to 5 and be in the gym for a lot, and used to go to university in Liverpool. So I lived in Manchester back then, and the routine used to be wake up at 3:45, and you know the iced tea Monster, the one that's not carbonated? I used to have that next to my bed, that's the only way I get up. So as soon as I get up, chug it down, completely crazy for health, chug it down, can't go back to sleep, wake up, go to either university or to the like PT, from there work the 9 to 5. And then from there, in the evening, do PT again. So it'd be kind of like 3:45 till 11 p.m. It was technically 9:30, 10 because I get my workout in, so it'd be 11, and it'd be like 4.5 hours sleep. I remember back then, that kind of gave me the biggest level of pride, because I was like, if I need to work 10 hours, 12 hours today, it's nothing in comparison. And it's kind of funny because when someone speaks about balance, I'm like, it wasn't even a case of balance, it was just like a case of like, you've got these little balls in your life, you've got glass balls and rubber balls. If you drop the glass balls, they shatter, like relationships, health, work. The rubber balls, they kind of bounce back, so you can pick up later in a sense. And for me, that perspective really helped me. It's like not about balancing it. These are going to drop, they're going to keep there, I was picking back up, nothing's going to change. These aspects here, however, if I drop it down, it's shit, I need to get them fixed, it'll take time. And I find that perspective helped me balance things more. So for you now, like coming to the end of the podcast, what would you say is like your biggest thing that allows you to balance everything and still operate at all levels within body, balance, business and being?
Structure, routine, and then something actually I'd say from the 48 Levels of Power book I read, I was like, oh, that's so true, is not being in a rush. Like if you're going to be fucking late, you're going to be late. Like it is what it is. And like if you're in a rush in life, you're not in control. So my big thing I'm thinking now is like I want to be less rushed, and then like life can run on my own terms. I think that's where sometimes people run from pillar to post for no reason. I think that sometimes you just need to like go with the flow with it. And I think that's probably one of the biggest things that allow me to do that, but also just then actually planning ahead. Like even from like a really weird example, I take more supplements than most fucking chemists have. And to like actually schedule out taking that stuff, I forget. So what I end up doing is once a week, I'll get out 14 containers. So one for the evening, one for the morning, and I'll split like the vitamins, tablets, whatever, into each of them, so I don't miss up in terms of forgetting to take stuff. But then also when I wake up, I just like open thing, take all the tablets, and I'm done. Whereas that saves me probably 5 minutes a day of pissing around. So I think how can you systematize things into your life so then it makes it easier for you to achieve them? Like removing friction from things makes it simple to then get the things you want. Same thing in terms of like not having junk food in your house. I said to Charlie, like we cannot buy dark chocolate anymore because I eat like 4 bars of 100 gram dark chocolate a week. It's like 800, maybe 1,000 calories a bar. I mean, I'm doing 4 a week. So I'm like, that's a lot. I don't even notice it because I just end snacking on it. So I think when you start to have this pattern recognition and you see some of these things, it makes it much easier for you.
I love that.
What do you think? You've obviously known me for a little while now. How do you think I've changed in that period?
I think what's funny is I don't think I said this to you actually, but the first time we met, I remember the reason I actually reached out to you was because I felt like you had what I wanted. Like you were in good shape, you had a personality, which I don't think many people have personally, and you had the story of success, which is incredible. So that kind of attracted me more. I think in terms of what's changed, I think it's more like it's kind of been a magnifier. I'm not sure whether that's the fact we've actually got to know each other more, or the fact that actually you've become more of you, which is quite excellent to see. And almost that more people know that now. I think that's been the biggest change seen with yourself, and it's more like more of the good, and that's a lot more obvious. So it kind of is almost like it's kind of like quantified what you were already doing more previously, and it just showed it off to a higher level.
And that's, if I could do anything in the next 5 years, is be radically transparent about everything I do and document it as much as possible, and give people insights into the good and the bad and the shit stuff that happens. And I think the more open people are with that, actually with their own personal brand going forwards, the better, because people are going to crave authenticity more in a world which is more fake with AI.
1,000%. AI is wild nowadays. It's crazy. It's for you. Last 2 questions to wrap up. We've got Matt Haycock's podcast next. What's one question he won't know? He won't know he's going to be asked this, but what would be a question for him to ask?
To ask Matt.
Yeah,
I know Matt really well, so you can ask him some really uncomfortable questions. Can I make any question I want?
Absolutely. Let's do it.
Why do you struggle with relationships when you run a business? That's not framed at me, but it's framed at him.
That's a good question. I love that.
If you watch this, Matt, I apologise. But that's a good question.
I'll put the 2 clips together. The final thing is, who would you recommend to come on the podcast next?
John Lee would be very good when he's next in Dubai, so I can set that up for you.
Appreciate that.
I might have someone else sick as well, but I'm getting on my podcast next week. We'll speak to you afterwards.
Love it. Let's do it. Pleasure. It's
awesome,
as long as I come in, I look forward to what's going to come for us, dude.
Yeah, big thank you.
Them.